Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the Victorinox Swiss Army INOX Professional Diver. This is one of the new versions of the INOX or INOX. I just like saying INOX. It might be INOX, but in the world of watches, I have yet to find myself where there are words that can be pronounced separate ways, where I've decided which way I want to pronounce it. I think the classic one is like with the watch brand Jaeger LeCoultre, which some people call Jaeger. Even internally the brand, they call it both ways. So INOX, INOX, whatever you like, it's INOX. And the INOX came out a couple of years ago, and it was supposed to be like their do anything, go anywhere, beat it up. They created like 140 or something like that durability tests that each one of the watches needed to pass. And that's actually one of the reasons that the INOX watches are quartz, is because mechanical watches simply wouldn't put up with a lot of the stress tests. So even though there's a Swiss Ronda, I think it's a caliber 715 movement in there, there's lots of little special things like how the hands are attached, how the hour markers are set to the case, and lots of things like that. And Victorinox Swiss Army has done a lot of things to sort of showcase the durability. And the durability is more than just like throwing the watch around. It's things like maintaining the color after long exposure to the sun, being able to be frozen, exposed to high heat, things like that. And so creating a diver out of the collection makes sense because dive watches themselves are sort of known for being more robust than quote-unquote standard watches, because they're supposed to survive in the depths, so they have thicker cases, thicker sapphire crystals, and things like that. So the diver version, or the professional diver version as they call it, is a little bit larger than the standard one. It's 45 millimeters wide versus 43 millimeters wide. Of course, the most notable difference on the case is the addition of the turning diver style bezel. So it's got a nice rotation feel to it there. A little bit of wiggle, but not that much of a deal. It's a good feel. It's legible. You have a very large pip there for the lume. The bezel coincides. It still maintains a sort of angular look of the watch. So there's that sort of cool shape of the INOX that people tend to like, which is maintained in the diver, and I think they did a good job at that. The dial is also designed a little bit differently. You have different hour markers that sort of are a little bit more traditional dive watch in their style. This yellow version is probably the most bold, and yellow was missing in the original collection. And I hope that the yellow color translates to the video well, because it is a very sort of rich yellow. It's an attractive one. They did a good job. There's hints of red on the dial that at first I didn't like, but then they kind of grew on me. And it is Victorinox Swiss Army, so pretty much everything has to have a little red in it, right? But I think they did a good job, and I like the sort of three-dimensional look of the dial there. One of the sort of interesting, quirky things about the watch is that the original INOX and the diver are both water resistant to 200 meters. And I asked them, I said, why didn't you make the watch water resistant to 300 meters, which is typically what a quote-unquote professional dive watch is? Now let's back up a second and say that no one is actually diving to 300 meters. Well, very few people are. Even 200 meters is very, very deep. So for all intents and purposes, having a 200 meter versus 300 meter diver for the vast, vast majority of people who are diving means absolutely nothing. And what Swiss Army told me was that really it was a matter of price. There's no deficit of good dive watches out there. And so to make it water resistant 300 meters, they would have had to add they would have to make the case thicker, add a thicker sapphire crystal. And again, this isn't just for sheer water resistance. This is to put up with all their own internal durability tests for the INOX. And would have added roughly $100 or so to the price of the watch. And they felt that consumers didn't want that. So, you know, they wanted the diver look, they wanted the diver functionality, but to add an extra 100 meters of water resistance just to say it, they didn't think that consumers wanted to pay for that. And I understand that. Victorinox Swiss Army is a volume brand that makes a lot of products. They know their market very well. There is a diver style rubber strap here, which has sort of a little bit of a flexibility there, and that's good so you can wear it over a dive suit or something like that, as well as your wrist. And I like these types of straps. They kind of look cool. It depends on your style. They look cool. But it also means that you don't have to have an excessively long strap, or you don't have to add something to the strap, so you can wear it easily over your wrist or over a dive suit and not have to change the straps up. And that's something I quite like a lot. Swiss Army produces this watch with the yellow dial. There is also a blue dial. There is a red dial. And there is a black one, and each of those has a matching strap. Again, because yellow is a color that wasn't available in the original INOX collection, I thought that it would be the coolest one to check out, and it definitely is. I have to say, this does not go with everything. You cannot pull off a yellow watch with whatever you are wearing, no matter what. Like a black watch pretty much goes with everything, but yellow, you know, it's very sporty. It's fun if you can match it, but you have to choose the right things. But again, I think a lot of the people that are going to get a watch like this are going to use it for sport purposes, diving purposes, quote-unquote beater watch purposes, and I think it's good to have a bright, legible watch like this. If you don't have a yellow watch in your collection, you should have one, but be mindful. It's probably not going to be the type of thing that you want to wear on a daily basis. I did not think that the 43 millimeter wide version of the INOX was too small. It still feels good. And at 45 millimeters wide, it's about as big as I'd like for it to be. One of the last things I want to show you about it is the little guard that comes with it. Now, if you remember, the INOX had a guard as well. Now, this one for the diver is quite cool because it's actually a two-piece thing. There's a plastic outer one and then a hard plastic cover over the dial, which actually acts as a magnifier. And this actually is a lot more useful than the one that I think comes for the standard INOX, which is, it doesn't go over the dial, it just sort of goes over the case and the bezel. This one creates a little bit of a sort of bubble magnified look, which is cool. But underwater or with diving gear, things like that, having this sort of plastic coating legitimately does protect the case from scratches and nicks and bumps and things like that. So if you are doing something that is, you know, high impact, having this cover over the case works well. You can't operate the crown or the bezel, which is fine, but you can still very easily see the dial there, which I like. And you have a legitimately well-protected case, assuming you want to do things like that. And again, it depends on what your activity is, but this could actually prove quite useful, and it still remains quite wearable and fun. So there you have it. That's the Victorinox Swiss Army INOX Professional Diver. Price is $595, and you can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch. Thanks.